Welcome back, New Jersey football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. We are here to preview the playoffs. There are a lot of games, Mac. There's a lot of action ahead. When you look at the playoff landscape, we've trudged along through the season. Here we are. It's
dark.
It's dark early, right?
It's not cold yet, but it's dark.
Yeah, not exactly. It's a little bit dark.
Yeah, we got a footnote here a little bit. I think I help out. I think we can help out some parents. I don't want to say especially the moms here. Should we petition the state to call South 1 and South 2? North calls it North 1 and North 2 because there's no geographical reason to how they do the playoff brackets.
We get this question every year, folks, and I just want to make it clear. What it actually says doesn't matter.
I understand that.
Like what it says doesn't matter.
So why don't we call it South 1 and South 2 and just eliminate the Central and South, because we've now commingled South and Central into one bucket of 16 teams, split them up, seeded them out, and we'll have two sectional champions.
Well, why not do, we could even do things like the Donald Duck segment.
Well, we could, but we already have a North 1 and North 2 in place.
Yeah, we do.
We got North 1, North 2, Central, and South. So folks at home, you might be a Southern school in the Central, and you might be a Central school in the South. All you do have to know is if you win the South, you go play the North.
Right.
Or if you win the winner of the South Central, you go play the North. So here we go. Playoff time.
There's a lot to go through tonight, guys.
Actually, around election time, so it all gets super easy to understand and explain.
We don't vote for the head of the NJSIA, but, that's okay. We have a lot to talk about tonight, folks, and, we've made it here, right? And it's a spooky season. We thank you all for hanging with us through some technical difficulties. We've pared down some things right now, so we look forward to bringing you, kind of throwing old school, right, Mac?
Well, it's mischief night. I think we have maybe somebody's fooling around.
Yeah, somebody's messing up with our router or something along those lines, and we're going to do the best we can. And Rod, of course, is working feverishly making it all happen. But first, I am going to give a shout-out to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their promotion of the show. They are a sponsor. They were established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey, and in less than 3 years, they've done exactly that. They created the Battle at the Beach, dedicated themselves to helping others, donated $80,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you, West Jersey Football Coaches Association, for your sponsorship of the show. Also got a shout-out, Dave O'Sullivan, our buddy at sjglorydays.com. If you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on his platform. Thank you, Sully. You give us a place to do this. D2 Sports Network on YouTube. Rod, of course, as always, a shout-out. But, Mac, let's just talk about the game of the week real quick before we dive into all the playoff previews, because that's what we're going to do here tonight. Glassboro, Woodstown, undefeated Group 1 teams. I said last week there's nothing I like more than a good old-fashioned Group 1 throwdown. Woodstown's holding the lead at halftime here, 7-6. There's two Kenny Smith fumbles in this game. It's unlike him. He turned it all around and made himself the star of the show with a 71-yard touchdown run, a 45-yard screen pass touchdown on the first play of the fourth quarter. And that was really all she wrote. Glassboro wins this thing 20-8 to remain undefeated. They get the top spot in the South Jersey Central pool. Any playoff game will come through Glassboro prior to the state final. Kenny Smith showed what he can do, and Bulldogs defense gave up less than 120 yards on the game. Talked to Woodstown's coach, Frank Trouts, afterwards, and he kind of said, we played well, just a couple big plays.
Well, they bottled them. Look, They bottled them. They got what they wanted. I guess not being able to capitalize and put another score on the board before half. I think if they get up 14 or 13, two scores at halftime might be a different, maybe not different, but just put a little more pressure on a Glassboro team. But when you got a defense that's holding the team to 120 yards, you're going to stay in the game. I'm not saying Kenny's going to break it, but sometimes one of those that type of back is going to get his, whether it's a 71-yard touchdown run or a 45-yard screen pass or a combination of both.
Well, the way that he responded to fumbling the ball, you had a feeling that was going to be the case. I mean, Kenny Smith's had a decorated career this is his fourth season starting in South Jersey. It was at Hamilton for 3 seasons, sat out the beginning of this season. He brings them a nice element there. But I will say this for Glassboro. They have a playoff run here that isn't going to be a breeze, certainly, and they are the favorite. Got to get that consistency on offense down. I think this was their biggest test of the season against Woodstown. I think they passed it. What they showed is defense travels, but defense traveled last year too, and it got them to that final game. That's a game they want to win. The consistency on offense has to be there.
Yeah, you got to no turnovers. I mean, if you're
they had 5 turnovers in the game and won. They forced 3. They had 5 turnovers and won.
So you're -2 and you won
by 2 touchdowns.
Good team.
That's not bad.
That's a good team, not playing well and played well. I mean, played well enough to win. So they got Breaker knows they got a lot of cleaning up to do. They did a lot, do what they do. I'm not going to extrapolate, but
do what you do. Here's what I loved about it. Packed house, right? Packed house. Good game. Come out in the parking lot afterwards. Mr. Softy's out there. Not only is Mr. Softy out there, they have premier shakes on the menu. Like 8 of them.
Really?
It's different than the Mr. Softy I get in Fishtown. It's a little bit different Mr. Softy. This was the deluxe Mr. This is the college town Mr. Softy.
You go Jimmy's or Sprinkles?
What do you call it? I went butterscotch milkshake.
Oh, did you? Butterscotch milkshake. Yeah. What do you call them? Jimmy's or Sprinkles?
Jimmy's.
Jimmy's.
Right.
But I think some people say, well, if they're chocolate, they're Jimmy's. If they're sprinkles, they're rainbow. I don't know. I'm a Jimmy guy.
Jimmy's and Joe's? Is that what?
Yeah. But I do like the vanilla dip in the hard chocolate, the shell.
Oh yeah, you gotta love that.
That's a good piece. All
right. We got a lot to preview tonight, folks. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm monitoring here. We're sharing out. We got a lot of people watching. As always, we appreciate it. Let's go ahead and start with Central Group 1, Mac. We're going to preview every game that includes a South Jersey team, whether in South or Central Jersey. A lot to do. We may go without commercial breaks tonight. So, this is going to be really like you're behind the action.
I feel like Jerry Lewis in like the ongoing telethon.
That's right. That's right. Call in, donate. Please donate to us. Central Jersey Group 1, let's start there. The 1 seed, Woodstown, the aforementioned Woodstown, who lost their only loss of the season was to Glassboro. They play Kip Academy Friday at 7 p.m. Kip comes in at 6-3. Belafonte does it all for Woodstown, runs the ball 987. Congratulations, the first appearance in the playoffs in just their second year as a program, so obviously the most successful season they've had thus far. Woodstown would definitely be the heavy favorite in this one, would you say?
I would think so. I mean, look. To your point, getting in the playoffs first, second year in existence, good stuff, good showing, but they got a tough matchup.
They really do. I mean, it's not going to be easy. The winner of that game will play either Burlington City, who's at 6-3. They host Pennsville, 5-4, Friday night at 6 p.m. For Burlington City, you got Kysir Hodges at quarterback, 6 touchdowns passing. Dante Davis, 12 touchdowns on the ground. Malachi Sadler on defense brings them an aspect. 6 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 15 total tackles. So he's in the secondary there, makes things happen when the ball's in the air. Rashad Newkirk, 374 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 3 sacks on defense. Burlington City team that, they've had a good season. You like what you've seen from the Blue Devils. Pennsville on the other side, Coach Healy, they've done an excellent job rebuilding that program. Robbie McDade at quarterback, 895 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's also running for 331 and 3 touchdowns. Luke Wood, 5 touchdowns on the ground. Rylan Hardy, 14 touchdowns on the ground. Ground-heavy attack and defensive name to watch, Connor Ayers, 5 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 29 total on the year. Another guy who makes big plays on defense, Max. Again, City, Pennsville,
another 4.
2 Group 1 teams that traditionally in the past have found success. They're not necessarily located near each other, right?
And we started out already confusing where we have our first 4 teams we spoke about are South Jersey teams playing in the Central playoffs.
Yeah.
Watch from the beginning.
Watch from the beginning. We disclaimed that from the beginning.
Correct.
Here's one. Every year it seems like we talk about the strength of the West Jersey Football League and the divisions. We have a team that might not have the record you would think or the seed that you would think, but you follow them week in, week out on the show, and you say, the results are there. Maybe didn't go their way in some close battles, but a team that may be underseeded in terms of actual ability. You you're looking for an upset. Middlesex, the 3 seed, 6 and 3. They're going to host one of those teams, in my opinion, in Woodbury, who's the 6 seed at 3 and 5. This is Friday at 7 p.m. They're making the ride to Middlesex. Good quarterback for Middlesex, Don Parenti, 867 yards, 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. Take care of the ball. Also ran for 758 yards and 13 touchdowns. But Woodbury,
so 1,500 total yards by Parente. I've never seen this team in my life, but it's a stop quarterback.
Been watching Middlesex?
Yeah, I'm not. It's stop quarterback situation. And to your point, yes, Woodbury. I don't want to step on there about the guys. Not a 6 seed. I want to play on Middlesex.
No, I think if you look at Middlesex and what they've been able to do this year, it's certainly they're certainly very good. But Woodbury has played the best that we have to offer in South Jersey. Tim Holmes, 86 and 166, 1,200 yards passing, 13 touchdowns. He's also carried it for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns. Did we lose a mic here? Fish says we lost a mic. I don't know. Maybe Fish. Let's see.
Did it want to talk louder?
We can talk. Okay. He said he can hear you. Okay. Thank you, Fish. Jason Solomon, defensively, 2 scoops and scores, 83 total tackles. But how about Marquise Taylor? 8 interceptions, 3 pick sixes. The defense for the Herd, I mean, that's...
No, some people are throwing at the wrong spot, too.
5 knots.
Yeah, right? 5 knots, but one dude's got 8 interceptions and 3 pick sixes. So don't throw towards Taylor.
Right.
No.
Don't throw towards him. New Egypt is the 7th seed in that bracket at 5 and 3. They head to Shore, the 2 seed, who's undefeated, Friday at 7 p.m. So, Mac, you look here, you think Woodstown. I don't know. What do you think? Woodstown, Woodbury? Maybe rematch?
Yeah, I would. I mean, yes, I do. I mean, I know people are like, well, you're all South Jersey centric.
Well, we got to be. It's the South Jersey Football Frenzy show.
I understand, but we also have to be semi-objective. We're kind of media people, right?
I always have been. You kind of now even
Still,
your Twitter is now media person, Coach Mac. I think people are coming to you for takes.
I am somebody now on the Twitterverse.
Love the picture, you and Vince. I mean,
classic.
Yeah,
had it somewhere. Did you notice a picture of a picture? Right, that's
picture of a picture. Classified old man picture of a picture. Twitter avatar. Kind of balanced. You could see the edges. It was all good. So, South Group 1, we talked about Glassboro, undefeated. They welcome Point Pleasant Beach, who's 5 and 3, Friday night at 6 p.m. Chris Foster and Jack O'Connell have both played quarterback for Glassboro. I thought O'Connell did some nice things in the second half on Friday in the win over Woodstown. Kenny Smith, 745 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. Also caught a touchdown. Amari Sabb, 6 touchdowns in receiving, a rushing touchdown. Xavier Sabb, 6 total touchdowns. Brandon Simmons, the guy who really makes it all go on defense, though, 65 tackles, 22 tackles for loss. And Mac, 10 sacks from the nose tackle position. That's pretty good.
He's a dude, as you said, Glassboro's defense, with all the weapons, they're a formidable team. I mean, they're favorites, no doubt.
Yeah,
to win the South, if not the state.
Yeah, I don't. It's Point Pleasant Beach. I don't think it'll be a pleasant trip for them.
Well, here's I don't want to be. I'm going to sound like an old gray head right now.
Go ahead.
Okay,
that's what you're here for.
This doesn't, and I don't mean this is going to happen. I don't, and we're just happening the point of the show where I'm going to say it. To win a state championship, you got to win 5 games.
Yes.
Right? The 3rd game's your sectional title. Folks, stay healthy. Keep healthy, stay healthy. Right? We all want to score a lot of points. Yep. We all want to show how good we are. We want to show we're the biggest, baddest team on the block.
That's right.
But when it's in check, move on to the next day.
Yeah.
Right? And, I'm not saying that Glassboro is going to beat Point Pleasant Beach by 5 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns. But that's enough, right? I mean,
it's enough.
Meaning, let's keep it moving. Let's keep everybody good. We want in December, in late June, November, we want the best playing the best.
Best playing the best.
Freddie Freeman healthy.
Freddie Freeman healthy. Need to get a little rest on that ankle, hit some homers. I think this one is not going to be as much about health as it's going to be. This could go down to the wire. Who knows? Two good teams here.
Now, this is a different story. 4-5. These
yes,
4-5s,
4-5s.
a little different.
Got Haddon Township at 5-2. They host Riverside at 6-3. Saturday at 11 a.m. If you're looking for a game to watch Saturday morning, go down to Haddon Township. Haddon Township balanced attack, right? They run it a little, they throw it a little. Riverside leans heavily on Dean Potts. He has 442 yards passing. He also has run 112 times for 682 yards and 14 touchdowns, 6 sacks on defense, 10 tackles for loss. I think you got Xavier Parnell too, 873 rushing and 7 touchdowns. I think when you look at a Group 1 team, and a lot of these we have different stats for every group. If you look at a Group 1 team, usually there is one guy for some of these that really stands out. Potts for Riverside is that guy where you're like, if we're going to win,
correct,
Potts is going to get us there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, to the point of like the quarterback at playing Middlesex.
Yeah, Blue Jays.
He's got 80% of their offense. Yeah. And yes, I mean, but you get some of these teams that can spread it around a little bit, have a little bit of 2 or 3 pronged attack. Could give these 4 or 5 games are neat games. Township gets a chance to host a playoff game. I don't know how many times they've done that. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. So, should be a good day for them.
The 3 seed in that section, this is South Jersey Group 1, is Paulsboro at 7-2. Excellent bounce back season for Coach Harvey and company. They host Manville, who's also 7-2, Saturday at 11 a.m. Malachi McKenzie, 1,017 yards passing, 9 touchdowns for Paulsboro. 29 carries, 102 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Kyer Harvey, big year for them as well. He's carried 101 times for 715 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's caught a touchdown as well. Jeremiah Carr, 7 receiving touchdowns. Sawyer Cabanas, 4 rushing touchdowns. Eric Scott has caught 3. And another guy does it on defense too with 5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. For Manville, you got Ambrosio at quarterback, 400 yards passing, not a lot, but 735 rushing, 13 touchdowns. Naquaver, I'm going to guess that. I don't know if Naquaver is watching. I don't know how many viewers we have in Manville, but 915 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns.
Where is Manville?
I don't know.
It's somewhere South Central.
Somewhere. I'm not sure. If anybody knows where Manville is, be sure to drop us a pin here in the chat. Paulsboro hosts them. Paulsboro, the 3 seed.
We know where Paulsboro is.
We are very familiar with where Paulsboro is. They win that, they would play the winner of Shalleck and Audubon. Shalleck 6-3, Audubon 2-5. This game is Friday night at 6 p.m. at Shalleck. Shalleck had a big win last week against Woodbury. We talked about that. A seesaw battle came back and forth, and Shalleck ends up getting the win. Kenai Simmons does it all. 621 yards passing, 259 rushing. 14 total touchdowns. Reggie Allen, great year running the ball. And they do have a kicker in Hunter Dragota. We talked about how important that can be. He's 3 for 5 on field goals, 19-20 on extra points. Audubon, it's an interesting situation here for Audubon. They're in the playoffs. They have not had a great season, I wouldn't say by any account. When you look at the games that they've won, they beat Collingswood 7-0. They beat Bordentown 8-7, and that was it. I know some people were frustrated that Pittman wasn't included instead. They only lost 1 game, but their schedule was also not the best. So, look, I mean, they're in. Audubon's in. They're going to try to make the most of the situation. But I tell you, Shalleck is a tough place to play.
Yeah,
and Shalleck, Paulsboro, they played on a Monday a couple weeks ago. They could match up in the semis. That would be a game that plenty would want to see. But we'll see what happens.
Undefeated gets you indefinitely, right? In the playoffs? It's still rule, still...
I think so.
Yeah, Pittman wasn't undefeated.
Well, that's true. It's a valid point, Mac. All right.
I mean, we have to draw lines. There's got to be rules and lines.
Yeah, I think this is my thought. I'm not going to take anything away from somebody who's in. I'm not going to say somebody who's out should be in. And I don't really, for me personally, I don't have a problem with the way the system's set up because I don't have a vested interest other than I want to see teams make the playoffs. They deserve to be there.
We want to see the best 16 teams in each section.
Yeah, and I think
group.
6-1 is deserving. But I would say this: maybe the qualifier is this: if you are 3 games under 500, you can't make it. I mean, do you think that's fair?
So you don't think Autobahn should make it?
No, I'm saying.
I mean, if
that was the case,
yeah. I mean, but
do you think that's fair? If you're in a tough division, really tough division, in any level, right, and you're 3 games under 500, you can go out and schedule 2 or 3 of your own games, right, in crossovers.
Right.
2 or 3 games under 500, should you be in the playoffs?
Well, I mean, the rule used to be had to be 500. Back.
I know what it used to be, but there also used to be 8 teams, or they used to call your dad and see if he should be in over Camden. He says no.
No, that's the true story.
I know it is.
Yeah. So
I know it is, but things have changed. Process has changed.
I understand. So I mean, if you're going to have more sections, more groups, more this, more that, PowerPoints, scheduling, you know, some schedule relief. If you're going to have, you can't have it both ways. You can't get schedule relief and then think you're going to have enough PowerPoints to make playoffs. Hey, schedule relief is nice. Next. And this is not just a Pittman. This is going to have to hit a lot of schools. Not a lot, but a bunch of schools this happens to each year. It stinks. Does a 2-5 team deserve to get in there? I don't know. If you're playing Glassboro every week.
Well, I do think that it's a situation for Pittman where they've, you know, and this is no consolation. They built the foundation, right? And then we saw Delran a few years ago.
Yes.
Was a team that missed the playoffs.
Correct, yep.
Delran now is a different coach. I understand that, and Coach Hugo. But Delran now, every year, is in the playoffs. They've completely rebuilt their program.
Correct.
Coach Lucas is on somewhere else as well at RV. But we've seen teams be on that cusp and not make it. And what it leads to is the start of something bigger.
Absolutely.
I think Shalleck was a team that a couple of years ago too. They had to build step by step. I don't know if they were in that exact situation, but I do want to shout out Pittman though for going 6-1. And
yeah, winning 6 games is difficult. It's just hard to kind of figure out how to, you know, because we always get people chiming in to you, not me. I don't know if they.
Clayton's another team that was close. I thought had some nice pieces this season as well. Coach Madera, good to see you in here, Coach. He brings up a good point. You know, he says stop scheduling like they do. They base the schedule off your past 2 years. Those kids are in college. I think generally that's not the worst idea. What Coach is saying, but I do think our power programs usually every 2 years are still pretty good year in year out. I think there's a discrepancy maybe in the middle.
You've seen it go both ways, right? Teams have juggernaut years, and then the next year when they've graduated, the juniors and seniors over a 2-year period, they might have had loaded, and the schedulers gave them a totally uphill schedule.
Right.
While Coach Madera's point, those kids that played on that superstar teams are now playing in college. So, especially in the Group 1s and 2s, where one dude can make a difference in a game, or 1 or 2. Can make a difference in those situations. Obviously, bigger school has more kids, right? Smaller school, less amount of kids typically. Not always.
Yeah. Well,
we're not fixing
whenever anybody asks me what's going to happen next week, how do we get in? I'm like, we'll just check on Sunday morning, and if you're in, you're in. I have given up trying to calculate it and all that.
Because you're not a math guy.
I'm not at all. Not a math guy. You got that right. I think we may be going to go to a commercial break, Rod. What do you think? All right. We're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back. We've gone through Group 1. So if you want to see the Group 1 preview, go back and watch. But we got Group 2, Group 3, Group 4, Group 5. We got a lot of words to say.
School night.
Not a lot of math, so let's keep on going. We'll be back right after. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show's presenting sponsor is the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. The West Jersey Football Coaches Association was established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. And in less than 4 years, the association created the Battle at the Beach and dedicated itself to helping others. They've donated close to $80,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their sponsorship of the show. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by SRA Home Products. South Jersey, let me tell you about my friends over at SRA Home Products. SRA has been building sunrooms, pergolas, and patio covers for over 25 years. They've built more than 9,000 projects in the Delaware Valley. I've had nothing but the best to say about Mike Foti in the time I've had the chance to be around him and his crew. SRA is a gold accredited member of the Better Business Bureau, under the elite provider status with Home Advisor, and they've racked up Best of South Jersey awards throughout their past. They contribute to multiple sport associations and are huge supporters of Williamstown football. Find them online at srahomeproducts.com. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by the NJFOA South Officials Association. Are you passionate about football? Don't wait. Become a part of the NJFOA South Officials Association and join them to help officiate high school football games. With a diverse community of more than 250 members, they proudly oversee every high school football game in South Jersey, setting the standard for officiating in the state. By joining the chapter, you will become part of a team that upholds the highest standards in the game. They are more than just officials. They're advocates for sportsmanship, integrity, and guardians of player safety, champions of fair play. They offer the proper training to ensure you're ready to make the calls and uphold the values. Ready to put on the stripes and join the team? Visit www.njfoasouth.org and hit Join Us to register now. That's www.njfoa-south.org and hit Join Us to register now. Elevate your love for the game and become a football official with NJFOA South. Welcome back, New Jersey football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show, the preview edition of all the action that we got going on. We on? We good? Oh, I'm going over here to the side. All right, great. Mac, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you.
I'm paying attention?
I'm paying. Well, kind of.
All right, man, here we go. Central Jersey Group 2. Let's talk about this first. The 1 seed is Rumson Fairhaven. We know how good they are every year. RFH, they're undefeated. I expect them to probably take care of Spotswood, who's the 8th seed in Central Group 2. The winner of that, which will likely be Rumson, will play the winner of Delran, 8-1, hosts Delaware Valley Friday at 6 p.m. They're Delaware Valley 6-2. The Terriers, I believe. Vinny Sack has had a great year. You know that name, certainly through years past in South Jersey. 71 of 109, 971 yards, 12 touchdowns through the air. He's also carried it 81 times, 653 yards, 11 touchdowns on the ground for the Bears. Now, I got a number of guys who chip in here. Denny Vitesse, Zahir Cobbins, Justin Mary Jr., but Shane Polena, we talk about kicker, 7 for 9 for field goals, 32 of 35 for extra points, Mac. Delaware Valley, they like to throw the ball. They got Kelton Ebach, the quarterback, 1,147 yards passing and 15 touchdowns. He's also run for 3. Be an interesting matchup. Delran 8-1. We talked about them this year. They've been pretty impressive in some of their wins. The Bears would love to get a shot at Rumson. They got to take care of business first. They get that game at home,
right?
Which is a steady advantage when you're talking about Delran. It's not an easy place to play.
No,
Mac.
Played there many times. 4 versus 5, and then Delran, as we talk about in the West Jersey Conference. You think now that the week in and week out competition kind of, again, I'm leaning towards Bears.
Now let me ask you this, Mac.
Well, sure.
When you're playing one of these teams you've never seen before, know nothing about, you go through and it's a playoff game, you get the pairing, you get the huddle film, or in your case, you meet at a
diner,
a western, country sizzling somewhere off of a dirt road, and
Woodbridge exit off the 10.
Yeah, the Woodbridge Island exit. You hand off of the VCR tape, and
yes,
a lot of the kids don't know what that means, but it's
Google it.
It's how it used to be, the original huddle film. And you come back, you pop in the tape, and what's the first thing you're looking for? Scouting wise,
your size is going to jump off. How big this team is.
Yeah, how big
they are, and then you got oh well, they're all in white today. They're all white because they always look bigger in all solid white.
Yeah.
They're all white. They probably look that big, and then you're like, well, the team they're playing, the first thing you look at like how they move, like how they jump off the film.
Yeah.
Like not so much schematically, but how they get to do they get to the ball on defense? Do they fire off the ball on offense? And then you quite frankly, you're looking at their front, their front offensive defensive line.
Yeah.
Because we used to think, we wanted to control that defensive line. You control the defensive line, I think you control the game. Again, then you've done enough research, whether it's statistics or not, where you're like, okay, they got a kid that. I remember the first time we were playing DePaul when I was at Eustis.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
DePaul was not the DePaul they are now, and we played them in 05 and 06. And they had a kid, Chaz Servino, and all I would hear about, and you end up going to Syracuse, quarterback. Mm-hmm. All I kept hearing about this kid was Chaz Servino, and we're talking up in Wayne, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I when I met at Woodbridge or somewhere off of the Turnpike with Coach McKenna, I was like, Coach, what's up with him?
What's this Chaz?
Who's this Chaz cat? And he looks at me and goes, just watch the film. Like, not rude either. He's just like, you'll see. And you were just, the week we played Servino, we did this 2 years in a row. We beat him twice. We practiced with 2 footballs.
Really?
2 footballs in Pascal. Because we were convinced this kid could extend the play a la Jaden Daniels, 12, 13, 14 seconds. So we would have the real quarterback over here, and either Coach Lilly or Pere or somebody else would be on the other hash of that quarterback, throwing the foot, training our D-backs to stay in coverage the whole darn time. And then, teaching them rerouting where...
And it worked.
Well, we won, but...
There you go.
Yeah, but Servino was a dude.
Did he have some stats against you?
Oh, my God. He just...
Still nightmares about him?
We controlled the first time we played them. The second game, we had it controlled, and then they came back. They almost won on a 2-point conversion. We stopped them right at the end of the game. But Servino's a special kid. And just so but to your point, when you're watching that film and you're seeing this kid scatter around the field, you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to mush rush him. What are we going to do for him?
Yeah, how are we going to
Hey, we look at the line to answer your question, and then who's their guy?
Do you ever look at it, Mac, and say, when you watch them, are you thinking, who does this remind us of that we've already played?
Yeah. Do they look like Cherokee, or do they throw the ball like such and such? Are they big and strong like such and such? But then I remember growing up from my dad. Now this sounds really antiquated because team offenses have changed.
Yeah.
But my dad was a big proponent of best play, best player.
Right.
Stop their best play and stop their best player. Simple.
Cut the head off the snake.
Correct.
Yeah.
As they say, simple's not easy though.
Right. It's not easy, but that's the starting point.
But if you have a team, like if you were playing us at Lenape back in the day, and you weren't prepared to stop our power, like
you were in for a long night.
We'd keep running it. Like literally the same way, we wouldn't even change a formation in the beginning. We would get vanilla as heck and bore you guys to death. But if we were getting chunks, we weren't doing anything.
Yeah, you guys would certainly do that.
But sorry.
No, just kidding.
But again, best player, best play, and then watching a team how they looking at you kind of like almost blur your eyes and watch it in like team speed. Like if they're the red on screen, do you see how's the red? I want to see them play their best. I wanted them to play a tough team. I wanted to see them play a team that they dominated and what they like to do when they're rolling. And I like to see their tough loss because in their tough loss, you're also going to see what they do when they're maybe having to come back and
body language.
What they like to do when they're down. What's those?
You ever look at it and say, if we play these guys and we score in the second half to make it an 8-point game, we're going to go for 2. Would you ever do that?
We've talked,
or just the Giants head coach.
Maybe him. But we would talk about situationally, like when we score here, we'd always try to speak in the positive too, like but no, we try to stay pretty much in the moment most of the time. But there were times you were you had to think some math ahead, but,
Nobody thinks math ahead situationally better than the guy at Haddonfield, Frank Delano. 5-3, the third-seeded Haddons are going to host Hillside, who's 5-4, Friday at 7 p.m. They have some history, these two programs. In Group 2, they've met a number of times in the playoffs. That fantastic Haddonfield season a few years ago, which, is longer than a few years ago now, with Jay Foley. I believe they knocked off Hillside in that regional championship game. Interesting team for Haddonfield. They come on strong. They're going to play great defense, but you look at a guy here at Van Lafakis, the quarterback, 947 yards passing, 10 touchdowns. Brody Leonard, 451 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 12 receptions, 192 yards. Kai Richards, 2 touchdowns rushing. Dan Keenan, 3. They just kind of spread it around, and that's the way that it goes. It's all about the H. It's all about the unity. There's not a star player per se, but there's a lot of guys who know their role. This time of year, they do it as well as anybody. They know how to game plan down and isolate exactly. Like you said, stop best player, stop best play for the opposition.
And typically a bloodline team. Like typically Haddonfield has a cousin, you're a brother, you're this, you're that.
Yeah.
You played around. You've been a Bulldog since you were 4 years old in the program. Mm-hmm. You've gone through the program, through the youth, with Frank, with Coach Delano, and all those kids there on Friday nights and going to watch at that place. That's a great stadium, great environment, as we've talked about in the past, and cool early matchup. 3-6, Hillside coming to town.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hillside, I'll tell you a guy I'd look out for is, first off, I'd look out for him because I need to pronounce his name correctly, so I have to look at it a little bit longer than most. Darren Ikanagban. Ikanagban, maybe? 3 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumble. Guy is a playmaker on defense for the Comets. The 2 seed there is Walt, 6-1.
He's an Ohio State commit.
Is he really?
Yes, defensive end.
The Ohio State?
The.
All right.
Pretty good.
There's a footnote.
You might want to keep an eye
on it.
Yeah,
they might want to keep an eye on it.
There's a news. So our points, Coach is putting on that film saying
that's where it starts.
Let's take care of Darren.
Yeah. Or would you leave him unblocked on the end in shotgun, or would that just be again the Giants coach? Wall 6-1, the 2 seed.
Unblocked Big Ten Ohio State commits usually doesn't go over well.
That's what I was going to say.
TJ Watt
you don't read. You don't read
licked his chops on Monday night. I tell you.
Let's zone read that guy.
I was watching the Manning cast, and Eli says they've got to put somebody over there, or else it's going to be and snap. Here he comes, strip sack, recover. Game over.
Some dudes are just different.
Yeah. Well, those are the guys you got to chip.
Right. This guy's just, it seems like he's different. I haven't seen him play. It'll be interesting. I'm sure Coach will have it schemed up. He will not be surprised by him.
Wall, the 2 seed at 6-1, hosts Haddon Heights 2-6 Friday at 7 p.m. Big season for Wall. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do exactly what they've done for years. Justin Davis sets the tone on defense. 8 sacks, 53 total tackles. Francesco Scaramalino, the big name there for the Wall quarterback. 57 of 89, 792, 9 touchdowns. Also ran for 3. For Heights, you got the Matthews brothers.
The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show's presenting sponsor is the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. The West Jersey Football Coaches Association was established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. And in less than 4 years, the association created the Battle at the Beach and dedicated itself to helping others. They've donated close to $80,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their sponsorship of the show.
We missed Wall.
The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by SRA Home Products. South Jersey, let me tell you about my friends over at SRA Home Products. SRA has been building sunrooms, pergolas, and patio covers for over 25 years. They've built more than 9,000 projects in the Delaware Valley. I've had nothing but the best to say about Mike Foti in the time I've had the chance to be around him and his crew. SRA is a gold accredited member of the Better Business Bureau, under the elite provider status with Home Advisor, and they've racked up Best of South Jersey awards throughout their past. They contribute to multiple sport associations and are huge supporters of Williamstown football. Find them online at srahomeproducts.com. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by the NJFOA South Officials Association. Are you passionate about football? Don't wait. Become a part of the NJFOA South Officials Association and join them to help officiate high school football games. With a diverse community of more than 250 members, they proudly oversee every high school football game in South Jersey, setting the standard for officiating in the state. By joining the chapter, you will become part of a team that upholds the highest standards in the game. They are more than just officials. They're advocates for sportsmanship, integrity, and guardians of player safety, champions of fair play. They offer the proper training to ensure you're ready to make the calls and uphold the values. Ready to put on the stripes and join the team? Visit www.njfoasouth.org and hit Join Us to register now. That's www.njfoa-south.org and hit Join Us to register now. Elevate your love for the game and become a football official with NJFOA South.
Are we back? Somebody give us a... We're good? Okay.
My end?
Wall, Haddon Heights. Look, the Matthews brothers for Heights, Matthews, Sink Matthews, Sakay Matthews, if I pronounce it incorrectly, I'm sorry, Samaj Matthews. They're pretty good. They're pretty talented. Samaj, 16 sacks, 25 tackles for loss, 56 total tackles. Heights has their work cut out for him, only 2 wins on the season, and Wall certainly bounced back after a couple of years of being down. That's Central Group 2, South Group 2, Mac. You know who number 1 is here. Camden 6-2. They host Middle Township 5-3 Friday night at 6 p.m. Brunson 1,381 yards passing, 16 touchdowns. He's also run for 454 and 5 touchdowns. Christian Braxton has really been huge for them late. 120 carries, 836 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's also caught some. And Remy Rodriguez does it all for Middle Township. 1,200 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns on the ground. Tough to run against that defense at Camden, though, Mac. I don't know. This is Coach Hinson's time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, well, tough to run. Township, I don't think Middle's not running. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough spot for them. Camden High shifts gears this time of year. They get themselves ready from the jump on their schedule. Coach Hinson's one of the guys that early goes out of state often and goes and gets a bear out of state.
Yeah.
Because he knows championships are won in December, not in September.
And again, Matt, Camden back-to-back sectional titles. It had been a long drought before Coach Hinson came back to his alma mater. However, state championships have been elusive. That's the goal for the Panthers, and everybody has known that from the start. They're 6-2. We'll see how their playoffs start out against Middle Township, the 8 seed, Friday night.
Again, beginning of the
6
show.
p.m.
Sorry, beginning of the show. 3 wins their section. 2 more wins the state. 4 gets you to the state. 5 gives you a state championship. So, just if people are planning their calendar, there's still some teams could have 6 more games left if you count their Thanksgiving. Some people still playing it. Yes, 6.
First round game here, Willingboro heads to Johnson. The 5 seed, Willingboro 6-3 heads to Johnson, who's 7-1, 7 p.m. on Friday, I believe. Johnson, kind of a mixed bag. Seems their quarterback ran for 796 yards, 9 touchdowns. Ryan George run it with 111 carries from Mr. George, 952 yards and 15 touchdowns. Sean Taylor's done a great job at quarterback for Willingboro on the year. 1,200 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, ran for 5. Terrence Knighton, a playmaker, 6 touchdowns. And Mackay Cottle, 146 carries, 755 yards, 8 touchdowns. This would be a big step for Coach Scott and Willingboro to get this thing on the road. Maybe play Camden High in the second round. Certainly a South Jersey team that I think we would expect to take care of business on the road. We look at these 5 and 4s and 6s and 3s over the years. You go back and watch the old shows, and we get to the playoffs. There's some of them we think, we may be the 5 seed, 6 seed. We expect South Jersey to win this, and a lot of times they do, and this is one of them.
Right. In the 4-5, 6-3, I do like when South Jersey travels.
Yeah.
If they have to travel. They don't want to travel, but I do like Willingboro on the road going to Johnson.
Manchester Township 7-2 welcomes West Deptford, who's the 6th seed at 5-4. These teams played in the season opener. That was a win for the Hawks at 26-21. Bryce Wright didn't play in that game for West Deptford. He was sitting due to the transfer rules. He's one of their best players. He's got 643 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns in a shortened season. And Aiden Lund, the quarterback for Manchester Township, was very impressive in that game, but he also dinged his lower leg at the end of the first half, which, kind of helped. It definitely helped West Deptford in the second half there. It's just the 3rd playoff appearance for Manchester Township, and it's West Deptford's 22nd. It's nice to see a game battle at the beach. You think, these are two pretty good Group 2 teams, we think. Fast forward, one of them's season's going to end here, and one of them season in both their seasons.
And if you're Manchester, you're like, man, we got to beat a team twice who we're evenly matched up against. And oh, by the way, they didn't have one of their better players when we did play them.
Yeah.
The advantage they have is they're hosting.
Yeah, and they have an excellent quarterback in Aiden. I was impressed with him. He got the hat in that first game. Point Pleasant Borough, the 2 seed, 7-2, hosts Gloucester, the 7 seed, 3-5. This is Friday at 7 p.m. down in Point Pleasant Borough, a team we've spoken about many times. We lost video. Good. This is a team we've spoken about many times over the years. Point Pleasant Borough, they run the ball. Triple Dylan Reitmeyer, 697 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns. Nick Spinola, 537, 5 touchdowns. Jay Clayton, quarterback, 693, 13 touchdowns. They're going to keep it on the ground.
Running to true triple from under center.
Mm-hmm.
Tough to stop when you only see it once a year.
We've seen it many, many times. Willingboro has beaten them a couple times in the playoffs. Haddonfield in that regional championship game a couple years ago got the best of them.
Yep. Point
Pleasant Borough is here every year, so they're going to host Gloucester Friday at 7 p.m. Gloucester, Woodman running the ball, 629, 5 touchdowns. Burkhart, 359, 4 touchdowns. See what the Lions can do if they can go on the road and hang with a tough opponent. Central Jersey Group 3, the number 1 seed is Absegami. They're 9-0. Somerville. They're 9-0. They've had an excellent season. Many people believe they are the team to beat in Group 3. Absegami at 5-4. Lamont Buff Robinson, his first year's coach. They make the playoffs. This one's Friday at 7 p.m. at Somerville. Kendall Armstrong, the playmaker for Absegami at quarterback. 1,200 yards passing, 12 touchdowns on the season. Somerville spreads it out. They got Terrell Mitchell, 1,000-yard rusher, 14 touchdowns. Pacheco, quarterback, 1,300 yards passing, 19 touchdowns. Really a lot of offense for Somerville. Somerville is one of the best teams around. The winner of this will play either Ocean City, who's at 5-4. We've talked about them all year. They kind of have these hard luck losses. They had that heartbreaker against Holy Spirit a couple weeks ago, Mac. They lost to Cedar Creek on the road last week, 7-0 in another tight game. Their defense is strong. It comes down to a couple plays a game for Ocean City, it seems like. And at 5-4, they're going to host Allentown, who's 6-3, Friday at 6 p.m. Walker Bailey's done a nice job at quarterback for the Raiders, 849 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year. He's also ran for 446 yards and 5 more touchdowns. Clay Compton, Tristan Schmidt, J.P. Forster, all the offensive playmakers. There's a couple other guys in there that throw their hat in the ring as well. But big game for Ocean City. Allentown, they like to throw at 1,800 yards passing out of Matthew Schweitzer, who also has run for 712 yards. Got 24 total touchdowns on the season.
That's a lot of dude. That's 2,500 yards as 18 in the air, 700 running. Ocean City, we talk about how they're battle-tested, some disappointing, heartbreaking losses. This is where, as a coach, you look at the guys and say, guys, we've talked about it every week, forget about it. Now, second season, we're in. Mm-hmm. We're in, let's start it. We've come against some adversity. Now we got to, our backs are against, now it's, you're out, you're done. You lose, you're done.
You lose, you're done.
You lose, you're done, and they've played some tough teams, and I'm sure they'll do it again, and it's hosting again. Nice to host. Nice to be on the boardwalk.
The team Ocean City lost to last week, Cedar Creek, is going to host Triton in the 3-6 game. Cedar Creek at 7-2, Triton at 5-3. This is Friday night at 6 p.m. Riley Hoffacker, 1,100 yards passing, 10 touchdowns for the Pirates. Amir Dunbar, 1,200 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. Darius Benjamin, 605 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. The Pirates a team at the playoffs, Coach Jimmy Melody finds a way to survive and advance, it seems. Triton will come in with Jalen Morris, who's carried 459 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ryan Morley, 341 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's also caught 5 touchdowns. Tavon Douglas, 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. And Chika Ogbukuri, I hope I got that right, 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss for the Mustangs back.
Again, 3 6s, 2 South Jersey teams. But I like Cedar Creek. They're used to this spot, right?
You like Cedar Creek?
Yeah. I mean, you're not asking me to predict games, but, sometimes pedigree, being there, being used to the spotlight, But, again, 3-6, 4-5, these are flips.
There's another matchup in this one that we'll talk about at the end of the show. So if you know the bracket, you know what the game of the week is. We'll touch on that at the end of the show there. But let's go to South Group 3, Mac. Hopewell Valley undefeated. They beat Burlington Township by a point earlier this season. They've had an excellent season. They're going to host Nottingham, who's the 8th seed in South Group 3, Friday at 6 p.m. Seneca, the 4 seed, 6-3, hosts Timber Creek, who's 4-5, Friday at 7 p.m. We talked about Tarico. I know he was on battling injury. I hope he can play. Warthen, 525 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. Kingston Williams been great on defense with 5 sacks. And a Timber Creek team that's been up and down, peaks and valleys this season as well. But Tyrone Baker, 582 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Also run for 3 touchdowns. Amir Reason, Dallas, 110 carries, 452 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Roseby Leventis, 6 sacks. So this is an interesting matchup, Max. Seneca, Timber Creek, 2 teams that don't usually see each other, 2 teams that play somewhat challenging schedules in differing areas.
Yeah.
I think between both of these teams, if you kind of looked at all the teams they've played, they've covered from A to Z in South Jersey in terms of geographical locations.
Look, their losses are to good teams. And, both – you got, Diorio, first year, doing a great job at Seneca.
Doing a great job.
Yep. Fish fan, we talk to Fish via the show every week.
Fish is in here right now.
There we go.
Saying go Seneca.
Right, and I know he's loving his boys. I know he's supporting that squad down there. Great place to play. Environment's great. And you got, we don't know if Trico where he is.
Fish has an injury update. Come on.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we get it in high school. We're supposed to get
I don't know.
We're supposed to get it in
I hope he could play. I mean,
yes.
You want everybody to be at their best. You certainly want the young men to be able to play.
100%. So, again, 4-5, South Jersey. A little flip at Seneca.
Good game.
Very good game.
Homedale's the 3 seed at 7-1. They're going to host Oakcrest, a 6-3 team. Another one where South Jersey plays outside of the normal area, and they're the underseeded team. This is Saturday at 7 p.m. Not Friday, but Saturday at 7 p.m. Jack Cannon, if you want a name for a quarterback, Homedale has you covered. 103 for 143, 1,690 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 112 carries, 860 yards, and 13 touchdowns. So Cannon is a guy.
Stop Jack Cannon.
Stop Jack Cannon. It sounds like it's a tough maneuver, and it seems like, looking at the stats, it is very difficult for teams to stop Jack Cannon. There is one guy on Oakcrest, though, who knows how to stop a lot of guys, and that's Donovan Linthicum. 111 total tackles this season, 2 forced fumbles, 22 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. He's also run it for 669 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's had an excellent season for the Falcons. The defense for the Falcons has been pretty good. 15 sacks on the year, 86 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles, 13 interceptions. So Jack Cannon versus a good defense. Defense travels. Jack Cannon's at home. Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm looking, Jack's throwing it. What I'm impressed with, never seeing Homedale play, this guy's at 70% throwing and his ratio 18 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So he's just not chucking it. Right. He's 70%. He's pretty accurate. And by the way, he's got 860 on the ground. So he's just not. I mean, this is a dude. Yeah, this is a dude. And Oakcrest is going to have their hands full with Homedale here. I mean, I know we're sitting there talking about when South Jersey travels. The only thing I haven't seen that when I would dig up the tape here, I want to see Jack Cannon's deep offensive line who's protecting him, right? And that's where that game is going to be won or lost. If they can if Cannon's line at Homedale
Well, look, he takes care of the football, evidenced by 2 interceptions.
He's accurate, 103 for 143. I mean, as they said, and he's got 860 yards on 112 carries. He ain't shy. He'll run the ball 8 to 10 times a game. He's going to throw the ball 14, 15 times a game. Stop Jack Cannon. You might have to bring a Cannon.
Yeah, the 2 seed. Yeah, exactly. This is Washington Township. The 2 seed Mainland, 6-3. Overtime win over Delsea last week. Come from behind, score in the final minute, I think it was. They win that thing in overtime. This is the defending Group 4 state champs. They're playing in Group 3 this year. They're 6-3. They're going to host Barnegat, 6-3. This is Friday at 6 p.m. John Franchini, 1,500 yards passing this year, 13 touchdowns. Jake Blum had a great year, 10 touchdowns, 812 yards receiving. Nate Cashy, good kicker, 3 for 3 field goals, 24 for 24 extra points. It matters, especially around this time of year. The Bengals are going to rely on their quarterback, Jack Haviland, 55 of 90, 730, and 6 touchdowns. He's also run for a touchdown. Myquan Rush Esdow for the Bengals, 87 carries, 641 yards, 7 touchdowns. This is the time of year when everybody talks about the coaching staff at Mainland, the pedigree. Certainly last year we saw how they were able to game plan for different opponents on a week's time and execute that. This year's team is not last year's team. Last year's team was ranked by some as the top public team in the state, if not second ranked behind Toms River North. So excellent team last year. This team is very good as well. Some of the same parts are there. Staff's the same. They're playing at home. They're in a smaller group. I think it's a little bit more wide open than Group 4 is this year for sure. So we'll see what happens. But Mainland is the 2 seed, and they get Barnegat. So again, 2 seed there, Mainland, hosting Barnegat Friday at 6 p.m. Mac, let's talk Group 4. Let's just keep on rolling.
We're
buddy.
rolling,
what
huh?
do you think?
Yeah, we're going.
Keep on rolling.
We still got callers. We still have callers.
Yeah, we still got callers. Central Jersey Group 4. The top seed there is Millville, who lost last week to St. Augustine Prep. They're 6-2. They host Red Bank Regional, who's 5-3, Friday at 6 p.m. I want to give a shout out, of course. It seems like every week we announce another record that Latsier Brook has broken. The one he had last year is the all-time state leader in career receiving yards. Darian Blakowitz, a terror on defense, 5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 46 total tackles. He's a big man up front. Robbie O'Connor's thrown for 1,400 yards, 19 touchdowns. Jamal Wallace, 536 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. Red Bank Regionals won 2 in a row. It's their first playoff appearance since 2019. They're rewarded. Not only do they get to go play at Millville, but they get to play a Millville team who's probably pretty upset after last week's loss to St. Augustine.
Correct. Yes. What do you want?
Let's run through some of these other matchups
Millville
that don't have South Jersey teams in it. Toms River South, the 5 seed, is at Marlboro, the 4 seed. That's Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Jackson Memorial, the 6 seeds, at Central Regional, the 3 seed, Friday at 7 p.m. The 2 seed, Brick Memorial, 7-2, hosts Northern Burlington, who's 4-5, Friday at 6 p.m. The Mustangs have quarterback Jason Lahiara, has 1,400 yards passing, 12 touchdowns. He's also run for 608 and 12 touchdowns. Good year for him. The Hounds, we'll see what happens. They have, they run the ball a little bit. They pass it. You saw them earlier in the season, Mac.
I did, but Brick's a tough team. I mean, Northern, they're scrappy. They put it together, but that's a tough matchup early at Brick.
It is. That is Central Jersey. Group 4, Millville looks like the team to beat in that bracket. Now, the team to beat overall in South Jersey this season has been the team that's the number 1 seed at South Jersey Group 4. Winslow, 9-0, plays Princeton, the 8 seed, 5-4 Saturday at 1 p.m. Winslow rolled over Cherokee 44-0 last week. Jalen Parker, almost 2,000 yards passing, 28 touchdowns. Roman Duckett, 12 touchdowns rushing. Boomer Helton, 8 touchdowns receiving. Cam Miller, 7 touchdowns receiving. There's a list of guys. Ali, Powell. We just keep on going down the list. That doesn't even talk about the front 7 where you got Kastarfin, Hurd, and my guy on the edge. Carter? Rod? Carter on the end? Ben?
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, Benji. Benji Carter on the end there. Winslow, I mean, they bring it to you, and they never stop. And then they never stop some more, and then they never stop some more. And then by the time the game's over, I think everybody's just on the other sideline is just like, can this clock move any faster than this? We just want to get off the field with these guys.
That game might be done at 2 o'clock.
2? Well, that would definitely, in my opinion, I think that would definitely hit the over.
Well, I say 2 because they're going to hit 35 right quick, and that clock's just not going to stop running.
Yeah, Winslow a heavy favorite here.
That's where I've got the short game. And that's all due respect to Princeton. I'm just saying Winslow just Winslow.
I kind of lied to Coach Belton and told him it should be a good game, but in my head I knew, come on, like
we'll see what the damage is.
And then he turned on the film and said he texted you and said, "I didn't say. I'm kidding. He wouldn't do this." But he's got to preach. Hey guys, we have a path here, right? We have a path. Their goal is to be winning a state title in 5 weeks, right? And this is click number 1.
I think there are 2 different ways to approach playoff football. I think when you're a team that is outmanned, you reduce things down very simply to what can we do to stay in this game and steal it or win it. Slow down take the play clock down, field position, get in 3rd and 4th and short, and all this stuff. And then there's the other side when you're the state caliber team or the team that is a heavy favorite and you're focused on what can we do to make sure our attention to detail and our execution with what we do every week is at its max and that we're not looking at the team we're playing, we're looking at ourselves.
Between the years for Winslow.
Between the years.
Right. That's what I was just going to say.
And on the green jerseys, right? That's that's where their things have to be. And that could be the same for Millville, and that could be the same for Camden High, and that could be the same for some of our top teams.
Yes.
Some of the other teams, it's about the matchup. It's about how can our style make this fight, right? And we get into that a little bit more in the semifinal, sectional final, whatever, where both teams are coming at it from that angle. But in these first 2 rounds, with these top teams, it's how do we tighten our screws, not how do we loosen the other teams.
But that's a little difficult, right? So you're the way that you talk to your players coming into this week when you're the high seed playing someone who you think you should have an easy chance with, right? The kids are on social media, they hear adults talk.
Right.
That's probably the hardest part because
and
they know
they're a 1 seed playing a 16 basically in South Jersey.
Right.
A South Jersey 16. They're the best playing the team that got in the playoffs.
So that motivation to come into that game and be on your A game,
well, here's
got to trick those 17-year-olds.
We'll talk more about it next week, but this is where it gets funky, Rod. This week, I don't think there's a motivation problem because it's first playoff game, right? Playoff game 1. That first quarter, Winslow should be all cylinders, right? Then next week, you're not in the sectional final yet. It's that middle game, right? You're like, all right, now you got to, I don't want to call it a trap game, but now you don't want to get sloppy, boom, boom, boom. And then once you get to the sectional final, now you
have the motivation.
You're like, it's there. Okay, we win sections. And now, South Jersey final and state, all those are then finals. Sectional, South, final.
On the flip side of that, if you're a team that's coming in that may be the 16 or the lower seed or whatever, like Mark said, how can you try to steal this game? You're going to slow down the clock. You're going to muddy the waters,
Literally. How you going to muddy the waters? Like literally, you're going to call the fire department and tell them to and water the field?
Yeah.
Because, look, any given Sunday, any given Saturday, but Winslow just has a lot.
Right.
Yeah, and the winner of the next game will most likely get their trip punched to Winslow. That'll be Manalapan's the 4 seed at 4 and 5. They're going to host Pensauken, who's 6 and 2, the 5 seed, Friday at 7 p.m. For the Braves, you got Ryan Doherty, 953 yards passing, 6 touchdowns. He's also carried for 195 and 2 touchdowns. Ashir Woolfolk has carried at 126 and 853 yards, 126 carries, 9 touchdowns. They're going to run the ball. For Pensacola, R.J. Blunt has done it all for them in the backfield. 187 carries, 1,390 yards, 20 touchdowns. Saucon seeking their first playoff win since 2021. And if they win, they most likely will head to Winslow. They are the 5 seed. 3 seed Mac, Shawnee, this is where you'll be Friday night at 6 p.m. 6-3, they're hosting Middletown South, 3-5. Saw Middletown South earlier in the season. I was impressed by a couple of their kids, but, their quarterback, Luca D'Onofrio, 632 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's also carried 54 times, 294. Not exactly the most dynamic offense in the world, and Cherokee really had their way with them in the opener. Shawnee has come on strong here. You look at the way that they've run the ball. But how about Brett Lundberg?
Yeah, Lundberg.
1,000 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns. Anderson, 778 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns. Defensively, 14 sacks, 13 forced fumbles, 7 interceptions for Shawnee, Mac.
Yeah, defensively, they've been playing well. And we talk about defense travels in the playoffs. The Anderson kid came in game 3, replaced Solomon after he got hurt, season-ending injury. Anderson's a freshman. It was interesting to watch Shawnee this past week. They were a little more balanced on offense in their final game of the season. Which again, you got to go to your strengths in the playoffs with Anderson at 800 yards rushing and Lundberg at over 1,000. But being able to do some things at the opportune time in these situations, bodes well for a playoff run. And, look, Shawnee's got pedigree. That's their plan to make, But, again, one game at a time, 1 week at a time. And, hosting is nice, too.
It is nice. It's a good situation for Shawnee to play this game at home. They're a team we expect to be in the playoffs. They've done a nice job racking up the record that they have this year, Mac, and we've talked about it. They did not have the easiest slate. They've come on strong. The other game in that section does not include a South Jersey team, but Steinert, the 7 seed, heads to Middletown North, who is the 2 seed, to wrap up that South Jersey Group 4 bracket. Let's run through Group 5 here. We might as well keep on going, man. Keep on trucking. Central Group 5, Washington Township, the 1 seed, 7-2, is going to host Hunter and Central 4-5 Friday at 6 p.m. Cole Aquino slinging the thing around, 1,200 yards almost, 6 touchdowns. Deshaun Long, Paris Pratt, good receivers there, and Colin Bealers had a heck of a season with 825 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. The defense strong from Washington Township. They've shown the ability, right, through the year to be one of the best teams in South Jersey. And, they've kind of at the end there, they had RV, maybe recalibrated some things. Township at 7-2. The 4 seed is Southern at 6-3. They're going to host Cherry Hill East, who's undefeated, the 5 seed. Congratulations to Coach Drob and the Cougars on an undefeated regular season. It is their first playoff appearance since 2006. They get a Southern team that Justin Silva, I saw him at the Battle of the Beach. Excellent player, 84 carries, 550 yards, 8 touchdowns. Really, really, really tough kid. Tough kid to bring down, too. For East, what can you say? Denzel Lee, 1,273 yards, 14 touchdowns rushing. Excellent story, Cherry Hill East. And they get that playoff win, Mac. Can they be one of those underseeded teams? Friday at 6 p.m. We'll find out at Southern.
Yeah, being 8-0 is nice. They got to be. They're excited to be back in the playoffs. Southern, they've been in this spot before, right? They coached. They're not strangers to the playoff process at Southern. So again, a real fun place to play on the road. There, I've been there a couple times. Brought some teams there in the early 2000s, so 11s. A winnable game, obviously, for Cherry Hill East, and hopefully they're not. We're excited we're in. Now we got to go win. Good to be in.
What do you got, Rob?
I wanted to make sure I was good. I just wanted to say it can't be understated what Cherry Hill East has done to flip that program. The last couple, years, it's been a while since they've been in a win column. As far as being able to make the playoffs, you just spoke to it. That is a huge accomplishment for them, and I just don't want that to go under the radar.
No, it can't go under the radar no matter what happens on Friday night. If they were to win this game, and if Washington Township were to win this game, these two teams scrimmaged back in the summer, and that's the first time I had heard from somebody connected to the Township program said, Cherry Hill East pretty good this year.
Right.
They're going to make some noise.
Yeah.
And you kind of mark that down like, all right, let's see. And they're 8-0, and, they may be reproducing that.
East, don't look ahead. Look, we're South Jersey fans, right? I like the guys at Southern, but East, don't look ahead. Take care of business. Beat the Rams at Southern, and then we'll talk about a Township East matchup. But it could be cool.
Yeah. You talk about Old Bridge is the 3 seed here. They're 6-3. They host Cherokee, who's 4-5. The 6 seed Friday at 7 p.m. Brody Nugent's been big for Old Bridge all season. The quarterback, 883 yards passing, 12 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, so 4-1 TD to interception rate. Also carried it for almost 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns. He does it all. For the Chiefs, I mean, look, this has not been the season that they wanted. Campfield rushed for 1,000 yards this year and 4 touchdowns, but 4-5, some lopsided losses, not what they're used to. Everybody starts over when the playoffs start, and they have a chance to rectify things headed to Old Bridge.
Interesting seed for Cherokee, right? I mean, you look at the brackets, maybe I'm nostalgic, but I see a way, and you just, they got to change, again, throw out the season, start it anew, let's go to Old Bridge,
Well, you can start anew, but the other thing is the 2 teams that are going to play in this next game, their momentum they've gotten better as the year has gone on.
Yes, they have.
These teams, and their momentum is rolling in the right direction, whereas Cherokee's has not been. You got Atlantic City, the 2 seed. They started 0-2. They've won 6 in a row since. They're 6-2. They're going to host Eastern, who's 5-4, the 7 seed. Lionel Boland's done a nice job there this year. This is Friday at 6 p.m. First home playoff game for Atlantic City in 12 years. Peaky Roseboro does it all. We've talked about him all year long. 1,700 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's run 62 times for 555 yards and 7 more touchdowns. Ice Cup, of course, doing what he does. He has 7 receiving touchdowns. Eastern, Logan Dawson, 1,231 yards passing, 12 touchdowns. The thing about Eastern is they played Atlantic City to within 8 points a couple of weeks ago. And Terry Cook did a nice job there, defensive back. He's been playing very well for Eastern. I know Sam's in here watching. So both those teams have they played, I think, 3 weeks ago, 8-point game. They're going to play again. That'd be an interesting matchup here. But Atlantic City, Washington Township, Cherry Hill East, Cherokee, Eastern, Southern. I mean, Mac, is this the throw back the clock section?
Right. I mean, you got
right. I mean, there were a couple years for some of these teams. Now, not Cherokee's been in the mix forever, but some of these teams we haven't seen
in this
same spot. I mean,
right, it's a long time.
This is a turn back the clock. This is if you moved away from South Jersey 20 years ago and you moved back, you say the playoffs look the same.
Everything looks the same, right?
This is like a big bracket. I mean, it looks just like it always looks.
What are we doing all these extra games? It looks like 2003.
Yeah. That's good stuff. South Jersey Group 5, Toms River North 9-0. They welcome Bridgeton. It's had a great season. 6-3. Friday at 6 p.m. It doesn't really matter who's in for Toms River North. When they got that line and they got that team, man, they just keep rolling. I think they've won both Group 5 state championships so far. They have a chance to make it another one. Excellent team. TJ Valerio, 1,700 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's run for 525 and 7 touchdowns. Good year for Bridgeton, as we said, 6-3. Another team that's really bounced back. Eric Hilton at running back, 810 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's had a nice year for Bridgeton. They head down to Toms River North.
Tough matchup.
Very tough. Very tough.
You know what, though? They got Century Bakery in town on Pearl Street, so.
There you go.
I don't know if that's
Stop by the bakery.
I don't know if that's going to help.
On the way,
They're going to be closed Friday night.
That's a box of fries.
That's your consolation.
With the icing rod?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tough one.
Bacon covered. They got bacon covered going on right now. Maple with bacon covered.
Here's an interesting one. It's about close seeds. You got the 4 seed in Howe at 3-5. Vincent Meehan at quarterback, 562 passing, 7 touchdowns, run for 592, 2 touchdowns. Kind of does it both. They host Kingsway, who's 7-2, So 7-2 goes to 3-5, Friday at 6:30 p.m. Tommy DiPietro is now the school all-time tackle leader for Kingsway. He has a sack, 7 tackles for loss. David Oravets had a great year, 909 yards passing, 8 touchdowns. He's run for 3. Mac, you're very familiar with Henny in the playoffs. Coach Mark Hendricks, he does a great job this time of year, talking about their best, taking away their best. He's won some games that they've been counted out.
But I know what keeps him up at night, the dual threat quarterback, just like a lot of defensive guys, right? I mean, Hal doesn't have over 1,000 throwing or 1,000 rushing, but he's definitely, he's done a good job, completing over 50% of his passes. He's averaging 6 yards a run. Again, Kingsway going to Hal. I mean, best player. Kingsway will take it away with Kevin Miller on the defensive side of the ball with Coach Hendricks. And Coach does such a great job on the offensive side, too. He'll exploit what he needs to exploit, too. I mean, Mark or Coach Hendricks, if they can run the zone scheme, they'll run the zone scheme all night. If they can run the power scheme, they'll take what the team gives them and they'll just keep doing it, and they'll win the football games. They'll take care of business.
The bottom half of that bracket, you got Hillsborough as the 3 seed. They host Freehold Township Friday at 7 p.m. The 2 seed in this bracket, Rancocas Valley, 7-2, hosts Edison, who's a 5-4, the 7 seed Friday at 6 p.m.
RV's rolling right now.
They are. Rod, do we have the nod of the week? We don't. Okay, well, I'm just going to describe the nod of the week to you, so everybody close your eyes and just imagine this. RV's at home against Lenape. I think it was at home. Maybe it was on the road. I'm not doing a very good job painting this picture.
No.
The field had 100 yards on it.
I thought you were a writer.
I do know that.
Aren't you a writer?
The lines were painted white. Ball goes up in the air. Wouldn't you know it, Brody Dieter, defensive back, intercepts it. And then he does what he does. He takes it to the end zone. You can see him running down the sideline if you look at it. He's a big kid, maybe 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", just gracefully gliding into the end zone.
6'1", 6'2", or 6'3"? Am I 5'8", 5'9", or 5'10"?
At the beginning of the season, I think he was 6 foot, and now by the end, he's uncoverable. I mean, he's one-handing it over guys. He looks 6'3".
He's Greek legend right now. He has had a huge season with 54 receptions, 1,000 yards receiving.
15 touchdowns.
Right? Look
at me.
So
1 out of 3.2 is it, or whatever, 3.5, 3.3 is a touchdown.
So if you're Edison, you got to stop Mr. Adams and Mr. Dieter.
Adams has run for 675 at quarterback, 6 touchdowns.
He's at 1,600.
But he's thrown for 1,720 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Oh, I know. I've seen him. He's a dude.
And defensively, they have been getting better every week. They are, and I may have mentioned this earlier in the season, but Mac, they are the only team I've seen where the sidelines completely united as one. The kids are all in for their teammates. You can see why they are playing such good football. It's not just the players that they have, but the way they've come together, the buy-in that they've got. You got Coach Lucas throwing out game balls after the game. Mm-hmm. The kids are on fire. RV is a heck of a place to play when things are going good. And they get Edison, who Anthony Cataloni at quarterback, 882 yards passing, 6 touchdowns. Nikir Ito, 137 in terms of carries, 950 yards, 13 touchdowns. It's be an interesting matchup, but RV, things are rolling for them, no doubt about it. That sums up all the groups. So now we're not even going to take a break. We're going to finish this thing out.
Rod, how many states did we just do? Was that just Jersey? Or was that Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania? Did we do?
That was Jersey. That definitely.
We give the people what they want. They want playoff previews. You get a little stat. You get a little bit of insight every game. You can't say we shorted you, except we have shorted you to this point for one game because it's the game of the week, and that's the one we're going to talk about right now.
It's a good game. That's why it is the game of the week.
It's
a heck of a game.
Really good.
And the dynamics, I've mentioned every game. I've mentioned the records. Now, for one side, I think that matters a whole lot. You got Burlington Township in Central Jersey, Group 3 is the 2 seed. They're 8-1. They lost by 1 point to Hopewell Valley, who's undefeated, and they're the 1 seed. in one of those groups. So Burlington Township 8-1. It's been a great year. First year of Coach Everett at Burlington Township wearing the Vegas gold and black. Now, 7th seed coming in is Delsey, and they're 2-6. You may say 2-6.
Who may
Delsey? Game of the week, 2-6. Here's why 2-6. Well, a few weeks ago, Coach Marquez put on the headset. Probably put the old towel over his neck as he's wont to wear. Gets back involved, install the old offense, and give that thing to Dan Russo. See what comes of it. Well, they beat Williamstown by, I think, 29 the first time out with all this implemented. Last week they had Mainland on the ropes. They end up, Mainland scores, like I said, in the final minute or so and wins in overtime. This Delsey team is not a 2-6 team. This is a different team. What happens with them, I don't know, but I think it's going to be a heck of a matchup playing against Burlington Township. Let's talk about Burlington Township first. Baron Davis, 1,500 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Here's the guy you got to look out for, though, Quade Hendricks. 34 receptions, 531 yards, 3 touchdowns. Aiden Binns, 102 carries, 593 yards, 10 touchdowns. Yetur Tapia, 39 catches, 546, 10 touchdowns. So Burlington Township doing some pretty good things. And again, Russo, I mean, he's carried it for 666 yards, 8 touchdowns, also thrown the ball. Plays great middle linebacker. Alex Grippo can run the ball, 3 touchdowns. Jimmy Reardon, 2 touchdowns. Not going to be a lot of passing on the Delsey side, Mac, but interesting matchup. What are you looking for in this one?
Delsey is going to pound the bleep out of the ball.
Yes.
And they're going to hold it the whole day. And Russo, if he has less than 25 carries, I'd be shocked. And then part 2 of that would be Mr. Reardon and Mr. Anderson.
And Grippo.
It's going to be the back to the 4-headed monster of Delsey. For Delsey to win. And they're going to spend a lot of time tracking down how to stop Mr. Hendricks. Because when it's not that he's got a ton of catches, but when he catches it, he goes.
Yeah.
So they got to tackle him in space. You know what? Don't let him. I mean, if you're a Delsey person, don't let him off the line. Don't let them throw to him. Because when he gets 34 receptions for 600 yards, again, I'm the math guy.
Yeah, and look,
easier said than done.
Yeah, and
easier said than done.
Coach Volpe is the man in charge, but Sal has been instrumental in coming on late here, and we know the pedigree that Sal has. But Coach Everett and Sal have been excellent. Year in, year out for 100%. A lot of years now.
100%.
And Willingboro before and Delsey, they were in the same division for a couple years, I think. Remember that division that used to have Cedar Creek and Willingboro and Camden East Side and Delsey and I think Camden High. That was a great division.
Well,
but so they've matched up before in the past, and everybody knows
what Steve we know is smart. Coach Everett, look. He knows, as we know, as they watch on his guys, that okay, we just can't. Mr. Hendricks can't be. He's going to have to do some of his things, whether it be with some punt returns, some kickoff returns, other touches, and they're going to get him the ball other ways. This is hey, other guys, if they're going to over under him, if they're going to slide the coverages and rotate towards him, and make sure he doesn't beat them. Mm-hmm. Other guys at Burlington Township got to take control and take care and contribute and help to win the football game. So, flip side, if you're the one thing that Sal can say to Coach Volpe, because it's Volpe's squad, but the one thing old gray hair or lack of gray hair is he leans in and goes, "Keep doing it."
Yeah,
keep doing it. Because sometimes the young coach wants to do some sexy things where Sal has no problem just saying, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be a fun match.
That's what I mean.
I think it could go a number of ways, and I think also in looking at the first round matchups, there's some pretty good ones that I would love to see. This will be a very good one. Now, next week when you get to the semifinals, that really I think is the toughest week to pick the game to see because they're just all loaded.
Yeah, it's some potentially really good matchup.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, when I looked at the bracket when it came out, I had my eye on Delsey, simply because they made the adjustment at the right time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying as a coach you get scared of certain teams, but you kind of have your eye out for certain teams.
I'm scared of Delsey.
Like Delsey just won the state championship last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So now they're back to doing what they were doing when they won the state championship. Hold on, wait a minute. Like, what happened? That's what I would be asking.
Forget when they were winning states. Can everybody see how my hand is low?
Yeah.
Delsey kids have been doing that.
Right.
Since they were this. So, and you got to knuckle up to stop Delsey.
Well, let's also mention this. Let's look at Delsey's schedule this year, even before any recent change. They lose by 1 at Woodstown. Woodstown only lost 1 game, and that's a tough place to play. They lost at Washington Township by 22. Washington Township's very good, Group 5. Kingsway, they lost by 2 at home. Well, Kingsway's lost 2 games. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Beat Timber Creek on the road by 17. Lost to Millville at home by 16. That's better than a lot of teams play Millville. And they lost to Holy Spirit in a blowout. But then they won by 28 over Williamstown, and they lost in overtime to Mainland. So, I mean, the results really there, that's a team that could very easily be 6-2 with losses to Millville and Holy Spirit. Then what does it look like?
But that's what I'm saying. Yes. So,
So they have
or let's say 5-3.
They have the schedule, which is the product of their success, right?
Oh, yeah.
We all know they
most
graduated a lot of cats and dudes. But right now, they're coach will tell his team, hey, right now, guys, our record is what our record is.
Right.
But we all know here, and in the reality, I don't want to play a 2-6 Delsey team. You talk about house money, not giving them, right?
It's not just that they know it can be done from what they've seen and what coach has coached. They were on the team.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these guys won the state championship last year. They know what it takes.
It's one of those, coaches is Coach Everett took over, did a really good job down there, gets a high seed. This is not the straw that you wanted to draw, but at the end of the day,
what did I do?
You have them at home. So,
Rod,
2014,
I'm coaching Lenape. We make the playoffs for the first time in a long time. We're 8-0. We're a 1 seed. We draw Toms River North. Right? They're 5-4.
Right.
They get off the bus, and I'm looking at them warming up. I'm like, and I walked over, you do your pleasantries, and Coach O, great guy, and I said, Coach, with all due respect, how are you 5-4?
Right.
He's like, he hit me on the shoulder and goes, we've had a lot of guys out. And he grabs me with it, and he goes, they're back. And we lose by 10.
Right.
So when you look at some draws and you're like, Coach Everett, great job. His team's going to have to knuckle up and play tough smash-around football, man.
Very interesting bracket there. Somerville at the top, undefeated.
Oh, yeah.
Ocean City possibly in the second round, defensive-oriented team that's shown they can hang with anybody.
Exactly.
Delsey, Burlington Township. So
you got to knuckle up in that division.
Right.
I'm trying to think who the other – I don't want to discount the other team that's in there.
So we've gone an hour and 40 minutes straight, too, with content.
Cedar Creek.
That's what I'm saying. So you have to play great team ball to win.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
All right, we're going to sign it off here. I want to thank Rod.
My knees are locked.
Your knees are locked.
I can't stand up.
I
can't stand up.
This is why we do it.
Listen, I just want to say this is probably will be the longest show that we do because it's always like this.
Well, you got everybody in.
We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We powered through.
Longest show. Okay. 3 bottles of water. Locked up knees.
We will be back next week to talk about the sectional semifinals. I think we'll also talk a little non-pub playoffs. I don't think the brackets are all finalized there yet. Maybe we'll talk about Indiana.
Indiana trap game this week. Got to win. Got to go to Michigan State and win because you have Wolverines the next week at home. If you're Indiana, you're now a Hoosier fan.
They should roll in Michigan's down this year.
Michigan State, I understand, but this is a weird. They got to go to Michigan. They got to go to Michigan State this weekend, and then they
should
come
win
back,
both those games.
Then they come back at home at Michigan, and then they go to
Ohio State.
To the shoe. We should do a show from the shoe.
Do a show from the shoe.
Right
Let's go.
Next to Kurt and Nick and the boys.
Yeah.
We'll do some kicking contest. Anyway,
right.
we done?
We're done. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to share it out. Good luck to everybody in the playoffs and safe travels if you're going out to some of those games, some long drives. Good luck to everybody. We'll be back next week, 7 p.m. Wednesday night, right here, wherever you're watching this. If you're listening, tune in. The next day, we'll have an audio on this podcast, and we'll break down all the sectional semifinals, non-pub playoffs. We'll talk it all, Mac.
Have fun in playoffs. Great.
Thank you, Chris Baker, for all the information.
Yes, Chris.
Excellent job, man. So we'll
Thank
see you next week for the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show.